Never in my life did I think I'd be on a podcast where I'd have to say piss to bliss. But today I have a very special guest who is the author of Piss to Bliss. Her name is Dr. Jennifer Myers. She's from the UK. She lives with some cats. She was born in France, moved to England, and she's also a doctor. This will be an interesting conversation. I'd like to introduce Dr. Jennifer Myers. How you doing today?
Awesome. Yes, so Piss to Bliss. And here it is, you see. It is actually, if you haven't already guessed, a urology book, but not like usual urology books. There are some swearings in it, as you can probably tell by the title. And basically I wrote it because if you've ever suffered, and I'm not saying you, but if any one of you have ever suffered from cystitis or UTIs or bladder problems, oh, it's so frustrating. And then when you try and find help and you go online or you go and see a doctor, all the books that you tend to read are either written in like a condescending doctor consultancy way or in a really boring academic, I'm sleeping in my lecture way. And people just don't learn. You know, what I found was when we have a sense of play or nonsense, silliness, that kind of thing, and really down to earth kind of language, the information sinks in deeper. And for me, the importance of Piss to Bliss is to reach as many people as I can who suffer with recurring cystitis or UTIs or bladder problems, and basically empower them to overcome that and live cystitis free. And for that to happen, I had to be authentic, and my sense of writing and who I am, it doesn't fit in a box, and it certainly doesn't fit under any taboos. And in the book, you'll see I'm a bit of a taboo breaker. I call some shit out that basically is a load of crap about urology and mythology, and also about, you know, women, because we all have bodies, okay? We all have what I call precious holes down below. And what you can use your imagination. Yeah, you get it. And
I don't need my imagination for that.
You don't, do you? No, that's exactly how it is. That's how this book is. You haven't all the guesswork's taken out. There's even pictures. I've done pictures. And basically, it's really like a conversation with my best friend over a cup of tea, describing what cystitis is, how our bodies work, and how we can overcome it once and for all. Woo! So that's what it is. One thing I really want to impart is that I really don't like taboos, and there's so much like taboos, or like, oh, we mustn't talk about women's health and periods or cystitis. You never say that, you know, and so women think it's bad or dirty or shameful, and they don't say what's going on, and so therefore they don't get the help they need, and then that just really like eats at your self-esteem and your self-worth, and in the end it's just not good. So it's like, sod the taboos, let's just be real. This book's real, we're real, cystitis exists, but it doesn't have to. So, yeah. So
how did you come to gather all this information on cystitis and all of this?
I was born with bladder problems.
Okay.
I will not die from them, I've decided. But yeah. And basically, from a little child, I remember when I was about 4 years old was the first time I remember having it, and I couldn't explain it. I kept saying to my mum, you know, I've got a funny tummy ache again, and I'd be given digestive stuff, and nothing worked, because obviously I wasn't able to express exactly what it was, and the GPs at the time couldn't work it out. But eventually, you know, when you get older and I was told, oh yes, you have cystitis again, or UTI. And, you know, the medics just kept sending me home with crappy advice, like have cranberry juice. I mean, that is just like, no, do not do that. That's my first top tip. You know, or have more water, or have these cystitis sachets, or the worst still, go home with a flea in your ear to say, listen, you're making it all up because you're peeing a stick and there's no infection, no blood, and they just think you're making that up. And you're not. The problem is there's lots of types of cystitis, and not all of them can be seen on a test. And so basically I did my own research. Since I was about 13 years old, I started studying metaphysics, which is natural health of all sorts. I then carried on to get my PhD in metaphysics and natural health. And I basically researched everything to do with the bladder and put myself through what I would think would work or not work, kept notes. And, you know, 30 plus years later, Ta-da! There it is.
Pissed to Bliss.
Pissed to Bliss. And the reason why that title came about, I was mucking about with titles all over the place. And I thought, no, it has to be controversial because that's who I am. That's what the writing's about. But also, I think it relays the message in just those 3 little words, what it's about. Because if you, to the readers who have had cystitis of any kind, will know that, you're on the loo for hours and you just got the imprint on your butt. That's how long you've been on it because you can't leave because you're in so much pain. And then, you've got to piss and you're like, oh, but really you just want to bliss. You just want to go, ah. So it's piss to bliss, and also piss, I know in American means angry, right? So it's like the American pun on that is like, you're angry, but really you just want to be blissed out. And this book should get you there. So that's what it's about.
So UTIs don't just affect women. I know some men that have had them also. So Absolutely. This would be good for both men and women.
I've got some dudes. I've got some amazing reviews and people who are contacting me in my coaching program for urology. And a lot of them are men as well. And I do say in the introduction, don't be put off if you're a dude, because obviously, you also have precious holes. You only have 2 though, but that's okay. You can still come in the club. Basically, bladders are bladders and men and women have them. It's just I sort of put it around women because there tends to be a little bit more of a taboo around women's health and speaking out about it, but also because I'm a woman and so I know exactly what it feels for me. But yeah, sure, for men it will feel very similar and the advice in there will work for men just as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your education. We had you're into metaphysical. Yes.
I'm not a medical doctor.
Right.
Put that out there right now. I'm a metaphysical doctor, and that
means you know more.
Absolutely. Because let's face it, bless them. But the medics I've got some wonderful medic friends, and who also love the book, by the way. So good there. But no, mainly doctors, as in medical doctors, are trained biologically on the anatomy of the bladder. So when it comes to cystitis or urology, they'll study the bladder, all the diseases and how to fix the diseases, mainly with drugs or surgery. But They won't necessarily look at why you get it in the first place. They just want to fix it, which isn't a bad thing. It's just, unfortunately, 88% of the time, they don't manage that when it comes to urology, from my own personal experience and research that I've done with a lot of women who suffer from it. So my doctorate is a PhD in metaphysics and natural health. So I publicly studied how the whole body works together. Now, if you've got a bladder problem, you'll most likely have other problems as well, because we're not isolated. We're all one part. The other thing as well is we're not just a physical and biological being. We have emotions, we have energy, and we have thoughts, and all of these are related to each other. So if you have chronic cystitis, which basically means you have it very often, or recurring UTIs. UTIs is actually an infection of the bladder, a urinary tract infection. Cystitis is a similar thing, but they are slightly different. And basically, if you have it recurringly, it won't just affect when you pee and be in pain. It actually eats at your self-esteem. It eats at your sense of self-worth because you're frustrated all the time. And if you're in a sense of frustration and chronic pain, you're going to be bent over. So it will affect your posture. It will affect how you show up in the world, because you'll look and feel like an angry victim, which is totally, I get that, I've been there. And it will also affect energy. So with metaphysics, basically it's a question of frequencies. We all resonate at a frequency. If you're Star Trek, you'll kind of understand a bit better about science fiction, right? But we do. We're all unique, and we all put out this sort of signal. And that signal comes from within, and it comes from our belief patterns, what we feel about ourselves, how our body feels. All of that puts out a unique signal. And that signal is how the world sees us. But more than that, it's what we attract to ourselves. It's like a magnet. So if we're already in pain a lot and recurring cystitis and we're really pissed off, okay, then we're going to kind of have a crappy life for a while, because that's what we attract into ourselves. So that's why it's a lot more than just a physical bladder. Metaphysics looks at what having recurrent cystitis does for your life at every single level. And that's why that book is actually quite a beefy little number, nearly 500 pages, because we do discuss, bladder issues at every level, even linguistically. Now, it's called Piss to Bliss because, I love the title, why shouldn't it be? But there's a whole chapter in there about language clues, because the first degree I have, talking about education, was a BA, so that's a Bachelor of Arts degree from Cardiff in Wales.
So what you're saying is that you can tell if you have a UTI or a bladder issue by linguistics?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
You can't tell that you've got it, but what I was saying is, in the sense of, in the past, so before this sort of medical, everything has to be proven by science era that we live in, people like great grandmothers and beyond were a lot more worldly, like they knew a lot more about the earth and natural health. They knew what herbs to go and get in the gardens, what oils, what things to cook, they just were a lot more savvy than we are now. They didn't have antibiotics and doctors to rely on, so they relied on nature.
Okay.
And we are part of nature, so actually that kind of makes a lot of sense. But quite a lot of that has been lost now. Even I know that in the few generations I've been alive. I talked to my great grandmother. I was really blessed to have known my great grandparents, and she'd take me in the garden and in the forest in France and show me what mushrooms to eat, what herbs to eat. Oh, you've got a tummy ache? We'll boil that herb up. You've got this, put this on your head. Or like they just knew a lot more. And so metaphysics looks at that part as well. The linguistic side is we tend to have left ourselves clues in the language that we still use, like cliches, metaphors, things that we just use without really thinking. And for example, if you say, I'm really pissed off, in England we say pissed off, in the States you say pissed, for being really, really angry. Why? Why do we say pissed off? Why not something else off? And the link there is because in the past, people used to know that anger and frustration is the same energy frequency that's the same as your bladder. Okay, so if someone's pissed off, it's a link to your bladder in a metaphysical world, in the sort of frequency that I was talking about. Because every emotion, everything in the world brings out a certain frequency, and that includes part of our body. Some emotions can be linked to certain parts of our body, and the bladder happens to be for frustration, anger, or abuse.
Okay.
Pissed off or pissed probably knew that. And so we still have, that's what I mean about looking at linguistics. And there's like a whole 2 pages of things that we use with the word piss or pee in there, like peeved off or on the piss for something that's not quite right, or blocking the flow, all of these things, which actually show that in the past, we were a lot more aware about our bodies and our emotions and how they are linked. So that's what I mean about linguistics.
So I kind of want to go back to the use of herbs and other things to cure common ailments. Ailments. That's not even a word. God,
it is now.
Yeah, it is now.
Make words up.
That's why I write and have an editor.
It's going in my next book.
Oh, God. Yeah,
right.
There you go. And some editor is going to be like, what in the hell are you talking? I got it on this podcast. Yeah, whatever. I think it's interesting because I think a lot of people are going back to, kind of the natural, holistic type of things to cure, like if you have a headache, if you have, a little bit of a stomach ache or whatever, because I think the pharmaceutical companies have probably bastardized our minds as far as, you need to take this pill, you need to take that pill, and it's all for profit. How many times have you read a bottle? I mean, just look at, aspirin or, ibuprofen or whatever. It's like, take this, and then here's the 16 things that might happen to you, if you.
And here's 16 different tablets to cure those side effects.
Exactly. I mean, it just, it's just never ending. All of a sudden, you're just you're more like a chemistry project than a person at that point.
And a walking wallet.
Pretty much.
Everyone else. I totally agree. And unfortunately, with the medical, with doctors, particularly in the UK, because we're on this different slightly system, but, there are with pharmaceuticals, obviously, and I do believe that there's contracts. So doctors have to sort of prescribe a certain amount. of pharmaceuticals because it is a business now. And the problem with that is, unfortunately, yes, it's easy to do. Here's a tablet. And sometimes it works. Okay, guys, I'm not a medical doctor, so I'm not saying don't obviously talk to your doctor. And take
Wouldn't it be nice if you walked into the doctor's office and you had a wall up there that said sponsored by?
Yeah.
So
pretty much is, isn't it? It would be, yeah. But and that's not to say, because there's amazing doctors who unfortunately are frustrated themselves because they have to toe the line. I'm not a medical doctor and I'm not under their organization, so I don't have to toe the line, and I do have to, and it is up to me to say my opinion. Everything in here is my opinion based on my own research, my own opinions. People don't have to agree with it, but it's just how I feel about it. But yes, in terms of the medical stuff, once I suffered a lot with depression and self-esteem issues, probably because I grew up with chronic cystitis and also chronic throat issues. So more books to come on those areas. But, and I was put on antidepressants, and, fair enough, because I was like, in a real bad way. And you know what? They gave me 2 lots of antidepressants.
Mhm.
And the first lot, I was in I was already in a bad way. Okay. This is what we have to remember about people who are, pretty down. And I just couldn't wake up. It was just like I was in another world, but it was awful. It was like I'd lost my mind. It was like 2 of us and I couldn't work out who I was. So they took me off that and said, oh yeah, that happens sometimes with that drug. Okay. So let's try this drug. So I went on this other drug. Oh my God. And I was so angry. And I just wanted to kill everyone and then kill myself, right? That's how bad it was. I looked at the side effect notice, that you have in the, and the first thing, warning, this drug may want you to harm others or kill yourself. It's actually written in black and white. So I'm like, oh, okay, let's give this to like people who are clinging on to the edge of life, and there'll be a laugh, won't it? Because they'll just have like jump off or cure themselves.
Might as well just push them right over the cliff. Absolutely.
Right. So that didn't work. So then the doctor went, oh no, we have to take you off that. Yeah, sometimes that happens with those tablets. You think, I think I'll just stay depressed because actually I can cope better without the drugs.
Right.
But then they said, let's just try this third one. I'm like, and that one went smoothly. And I was on that for a couple of years and that one was fine. It just suited me. Other people were fine with the other 2, didn't suit mine. So the thing is with pharmaceuticals is that really are unique to your own body and how you cope with things biologically, which is why, always do need a doctor and know what they're doing. But all that to say that, yes, actually I came off those and I've cured myself of depression. I don't like the word cure. I've found ways to overcome it.
Right.
Using natural remedies, and not just remedies that you take or oils or massages or therapies, but also mind control, like taking back my own power from the pharmaceuticals, from the medicals, from the science, from everybody who tells me, oh, just get on with it, or who just don't understand how I feel, and decide actually it's my body, it's my emotions. How about I work out what's best for me and basically fuck everyone else?
There you go.
And that's why Piss to Bliss is there. It's like, this works for me, girls. If nothing else, at least we'll learn a bit more about, because a lot of people have said, having read Piss to Bliss, yes, it helps my bladder issues. And now I understand a lot more, but it's more than that, because it's like, I can now apply all this to most other conditions, because cystitis, again, linguistics, ends with itis, and itis means inflammation. So if you have any kind of inflammation, so it could be even arthritis or sinusitis or anything with itis on the end, basically is an inflammation of that body part. This book will help because it helps with itis issues. It's just that I've really zeroed in on bladder.
Oh,
but
sure.
if you put a lot of the practices in there to use, it should improve all of the systems and all of your health. So, and that's why I like that, because it's like most of the time, if you cure one thing, I like the word cure, if you overcome and know how to treat one part of your body properly, it will have a bonus effect on all the others, because we're all one big whole, glorious whole, as they say. Yeah, if that makes sense. So totally.
You mean the bodies connect? I mean, you don't just treat one thing, you treat the whole body? That's really weird.
Well, exactly right. But it shouldn't be, because if you think about anatomy, well, this isn't a biological lesson, but if you think about everything is connected by tubes, or what they call fascia, which is like little connective tissues, which is everywhere, in the skin, everything is connected. So I see it like a band. Okay, I love rock music, right? Bang on. But let's go with the band analogy. Two right, dude. Highway to hell.
Highway to hell, absolutely.
It's about how to live in hell properly. Okay, so that'll help. But yeah, basically, that's if we're in a band, a big band, and let's say you've got a guitarist, a piano player, whatever, and one of those don't do their job or just I'm out, and just sits and not plays, the whole song won't sound right. Plus the rest of the band are like, dude, what the fuck? Like, they'll try and kind of carry on because they've got to, right? Because that's their job. But it will be weird. They'll look weird. They suddenly won't play properly. If every member of the band plays as they're supposed to play at the right time in synergy, you get this beautiful song and the audience really love it. And it just is a beautiful flowing energy. Well, our body is a band. Every organ is a dude in the orchestra. If one of those organs goes wrong, the whole orchestra is going to suffer. So if you treat that one organ so that he's optimal again, all of the others who have been kind of carrying their job that isn't their job, suddenly the bass player is going to play extra hard and a few extra notes because the guitar player's given up or whatever. They're trying to, and that's how the body is. It's amazing. The body adapts. And so it's like, oh, crap, that's a bit out. The kidneys, if one kidney's out, okay, dude, I'll take on the load and the other one will do twice the work until that one can be repaired. But, eventually that's going to have an effect on the other kidney and therefore the bladder, but also the blood because it's not getting filtered properly. So if the blood's a problem, the liver's going to be a problem. You're going to get headaches, all of these things. So just because one dude isn't quite playing right, it will affect everything else. So with metaphysics, I like to address that to say, hey, yes, wouldn't it be great not to have cystitis anymore? But hey, can you imagine a life where your bladder is perfect and there's no ever cystitis again? Suddenly, you're going to stand taller. You're going to perhaps look at people in the eyes more because you're feeling better. You're not constantly in pain and trying to hide it to the world because you mustn't say anything because it's cystitis and it's taboo. So you just get on with it. How great would life be? So we're all connected. If you think of the band analogy, easier.
And it's just not the bladder. I mean, anything that's going on. If you have a sore back, if you have,
or headache, exactly. That's why it's like this is a bladder book. But really, if you read it, if someone like absorbs it all and think, I get that, they automatically will get how to help other parts of themselves. Or just like you just said, even if you can just raise self-esteem or something else, it will help all the organs, even just because you're standing up better. Even just having a better posture can help everything basically flow. You're not breaking up the chi or the blood. Chi is basically a Chinese word for energy, which we all have. And if you flow better, if you're crunched up for backache or headache or because you're shy or whatever, then all your body's actually, if you think of it like a hose pipe, it's nice and flowing, but if you're hunched up, there's kinks and stuff and it's just not flowing properly. So it's about finding ways for the whole chi in your body to flow properly. And that will include posture and belief systems and all of that, which is why that book's so long, because it kind of tries to really explain everything to do with the bladder in your system, not just, oh yeah, you've got cystitis, take this pill, because if that's the case, they can go to a GP. Like my idea is, I'm a doctor of metaphysics, and that covers so much more.
Right. The whole chi, energy, light, however you want to, categorize that. I find that very, very interesting. And the one thing that I ran into in messing around with that a little bit is there's a lot of people out there that from different religions are like, oh no, that's the devil. Oh no, that's, you're going to go straight to hell if you mess with this stuff.
Great.
I know.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And the way I usually try and argue with them, even though they're kind of dogmatic about their beliefs, is, there's this common design amongst people. And if you weren't supposed to tap into that design and use everything at your disposal to either help you get over, issues that you have, or even just your entire being, I really think it's short-sighted not to tap into these things. You talk about sacred geometry and Reiki.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Reiki, yeah.
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 and shamanism and feng shui and magnified healing and all that. I got that off of your author bio, so it's not like
I
I'm
was like,
smart.
wow, he's psychic.
Yeah, not really psychotic, maybe, but not
Psychotic,
psychic.
yay.
Yeah, I can read kind of at a fourth grade level, but
That's right. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So I mean, so that's had an influence on your writing also.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. What happened was when I was 13, when I was little growing up, I always sort of talked to imagining friends or saw fairies or my bike was a unicorn. It wasn't a bike, all sorts of very vivid imagination. And I kind of lived in my own world and I loved that. Okay. And that's never really changed. But now the difference is I'm inviting you into it.
Whoa.
It's exciting. But basically I was always interested and I could see things floating and like, I guess it's like the energy of life, the plant. People sometimes just see a blade of grass. I used to see grass and then it kind of glowed, or I felt like I could commune with it somehow. I just wanted to be part of the world. And so growing up, when I was 13, I decided to study whatever I could. Now, that's going back quite a few years. So they didn't have internet, didn't have computers, had a library, but, can I have a book on tarot? Blah, blah. Like, be in the dark section, that kind of thing.
We're going to tag her right now as a Satanist.
Exactly, right. Yeah, it was like that. But I was really interested. So I found like correspondence courses, you send off, they send you the textbook, you got answers, you send off some of them were in the States, some of them were like somewhere dingy in London that no one should know about, that kind of very diagonal alley actually kind of thing, it really was. And I learned that way. And then, yes, going to the library and asking for any kind of metaphysical books they could have on anything supernatural, metaphysics, energy, world stuff, whatever that wasn't practically science. And there was some science like Einstein and quantum physics, but I kind of learned as much as I could about that. And then I sort of practiced myself what I was teaching myself. And then I found clandestine classes. It's like metaphysical classes. I used to say relaxation classes because I didn't dare say to anyone I'm going to my supernatural class where we learn to read auras and healing and talk about past lives and all of this stuff, right? Like, no, I'm going to my relaxation class every Wednesday night. Very clandestine. Now you can get all this stuff on internet, tarot cards, oracles. At the time, even to get a hold of tarot cards was ridiculous. Luckily, my grandmother had some, so I had hers. And then, now I've got about 80 packs. But so that's how I learned mine. And then I just went through life as part of my natural being. And I used to write a lot of poetry and stories, and they're all what you would class as fantasy now or abstract. But they were just how, I didn't know it was fantasy or abstract. I was like 5, 6, 7 years old plus. It was just what I knew, like what I did. So basically when I then did my first degree in languages, because, you have to be mainstream, couldn't study kind of this sort of stuff at school or uni anyway. You can now, but not back then.
Right.
So I was like, okay, well, I'll follow my passion, which is languages. So I went and studied languages. And then after that, I thought I'm going to do my master's in Reiki masters so I can help others do it. And then I just did, I don't know, I think I got about 30 different diplomas of qualified therapist, holistic therapist of sorts. And it all kind of helped to understand and practiced on myself, practiced on others. And then finally, I found how to do my doctorate and PhD in it. And I thought, right, that's it. I want to really get involved. And so I did my PhD in metaphysics and natural health. And then thought, boom, that's it. I'm in. How can I help other people with this knowledge now? And that took a while longer then. But now finally I'm there. And so I'm thinking, yes, online coaching programs, books, fun stuff. And, like I think I said to you, if you're in a sense of play or silliness, we learn more. It just sinks in better. Also, it elevates our self-esteem levels just by being in a kind of playful mood. And so, why not? So whatever I do is going to be playful and fun, and talk to your inner child as well as your adultness and just everything. It's just, that's how I roll.
And that's one of the things I noticed from being stuck in or a captive of the corporate world for most of my life is that people have lost their damn sense of humor. They can't joke about anything. They take themselves entirely too seriously. There's a big problem that you need to solve. And they think that we need to be all serious and pissed off instead of actually, and you're more creative and you're more open to suggestions and actually planning when you can laugh about stuff, when you're screwing around, when you're playing around. That's when creativity hits its high point, versus being depressed, pissed off, and just thinking that the world's ending. And how many people, mostly accountants, have you realized, oh no, they're horrible. I think I have a spreadsheet that'll fix this. No, you don't. You don't. Unless you're trying to balance your checkbook. That's the only thing Excel is good for. And some accountant out there, including probably my wife, sorry, honey, is probably out there going, no, Excel spreadsheets fix everything. No, they don't. But most of the people sitting around the table, just the brow and I think we should take this seriously. It's like, no, we really shouldn't. What we should do is be creative, because that's when things happen.
Yes, they do. And when I was depressed, the most, looking back now, because isn't hindsight bloody brilliant, right? So looking back, it's like, why was I depressed? I mean, there was a lot of reasons. I just come out of a car crash. I was in a wheelchair. I probably won't ever walk again. I lost my career, everything at once. Okay, so there was a reason. But I thought, but why? Like, can I not just, And I was like, and when I look back, it was a lot of the times where I felt really like low was because I'd fallen into the trap of fitting into someone else's box and listening to the taboos that, like, you shouldn't be depressed because what you got to be depressed about? Or someone else has got it a lot worse than you, or all these questions, which doesn't help, does it? But it's like, no. Oh no, then I mustn't be. Okay, no. What do you mean you got cystitis? It's all made up in your mind. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, no, you're right. And basically just being bullied and shat on, quite honestly, by the world's taboos and society. And I just thought, yeah. And when I look back at when I'm feeling more like me, it's when I'm being authentic and thinking, this is me. And actually there's nothing wrong with not being like the majority of people, or being open-minded and looking into other solutions, or why the fuck not? Because now I don't need to be on antidepressants, and I'd much rather that, I can tell you. So yeah, metaphysics, bosh, job done. But it is a minefield, and I've been studying it for decades. So that's why, if someone goes, I've got a lot of people who say, what do you mean? But I don't even know what metaphysics means. I'm like, I get that. There's a lot of things I don't get. And it's like, well, that's fine. They don't need to, because that's my niche and my expertise. And so and my job as the author or the coach or the doctor is to think of everything that could help and then present that person with the solutions. It's not up to the person to sit and think about everything, because if you're not into metaphysics, how are you going to even start? So that's the other way I write, is pretty much assuming that let's just start fresh. Even if people have studied this or that or the other, let's all just say, okay, hey, this is what I feel. This is what I've studied. I've narrowed it down as, easily biteable pieces of 30 plus years in little bits, and make it flow, pun intended, and come out of the end blissful. Yes.
Blissful. Yeah. Well, that's a nice lead into, we were talking just before the podcast started about your new course that's coming out. Yeah. You have a self-esteem course in the next couple of weeks.
Yes. So this is the photo for it. Well, actually, it's the painting I've done, because, I don't like getting things off the internet. I have to do it myself. So that's the pirate ship. So if you can see that, but it's called the High Esteem. And yes. And so if you remember what I was saying about when we're in a playful mood and playing with our inner child and just silliness, we actually learn deeper. And for that reason, I set it on board a virtual pirate ship. Which is why it's got Captain Jennifer Mayer. That's my captain partner. And right. I'm a captain. I'm a pirate captain and a doctor. Duh. Right. So, and basically, yes, it's coming out. And the reason why I did it, it was back in March. I come back from the States. I bloody love the States. I miss it not being able to travel. But come back from the States, I was at an author, what do you call it? Can't even think of the word, conference thing. And I come back.
We call them whatchamacallits over here, too.
Whatchamacallit. Oh, good. Yeah. I love those. They're so good. And I thought, right, I want to write my next book. And it was absolutely going to be on depression, or how to, or basically self-confidence and depression, that kind of thing. And I started writing the outline, and I thought, no. And I started had a brainwave. I thought, I must have been having a good time. Like, I was just like, bing. And I was like, no, let's do a video. Like, instead of writing it, I'm going to film it. Because, and the reason why is because actually I come back down straight into lockdown like the rest of the world. And I thought, actually, I can be best in service to people I can help visually, because that actually helps with self-esteem to have that connection, because obviously in lockdown we all crave that.
Right.
And rather than reading another book, not that there's nothing wrong with that, I know we'll write a book on it, but I just felt like right here, right now, 2020, I need to be doing a video. So I kind of thought, okay, let's do that. And then the second thought, of course, which all women have, is like, oh, but what am I going to wear? Huge deal again. So I thought, I've no bloody idea. So I thought, what does one wear to do a video? And I sort of looked through other courses. I'm like, oh, suits, sitting at a desk, pie charts,
Exactly.
charts. I'm like, oh, kill me now. Like, no, I can't do that. It wouldn't be authentic, and it will come across that way. So I'm like, I'm just going to have to do it me. And then I realized, silliness. And then I thought, I know. And I went in my wardrobe, and there was my pirating outfit. Always have your pirating outfit in your wardrobe. And I thought,
it's right next to my suit.
It, right? That's it. So I put that on, and I thought, wicked. I'm like, well, I can't just sit there and go, yeah, right, in this job, I might as well make a whole theme of it, right? So of course it was in lockdown, couldn't even get deliveries at the time. It was like really strict in the UK. So I'm literally just like in the garage, in my playbox, in my wardrobe, like rummaging around, making the right mess, finding whatever props I could use, And I thought, what can I do? And I thought, you know what? A lot of people go, I'll do it after lockdown. It's too difficult. I thought, no, find a bloody way, girl, because that's the flow. You go with the flow. And I'm like, right, that's what I want to do. I'll do it. And so I did it. And it's on board a pirate ship as best as I can with what I had. And so, yes, it's 18 days together. It's a quest. And it's on Facebook. It will be on private Facebook group. And every day there'll be a video explaining something to do with self-esteem and a quest or a task for us all to do. And then we all meet up in the Facebook and we share our homework, if you like, or what we've discovered, or if people need a bit of help, because some of them might be a little bit tough exercises in terms of, I do ask you to look in the mirror and look at what's not working, and a lot of the time we don't want to do that, but that's why you do it with someone who can hold your hand and coach you along, because then it's easier. Plus, of course, as you can imagine, there is no taboos allowed in my ship. Everything is non-judgmental, out in the open, because that's how people will finally air what's gone wrong, and then we can help each other. And the amazing thing is that I love is I'm actually going to do it as well as a punter, as a crew member, and a pirate captain, because I did these videos in April. I'd be like, I'm quite looking forward to seeing them and doing it myself. So I'll be doing it as well. So I'm going to be in there coaching others and doing it as well. And but yeah, so people can be let in now, basically, because there is a preparation stage, welcome videos and what people might want to buy to make it a bit more fun for themselves, that kind of thing, and introduce yourself, all of that. But on the 5th of November, we launch. And that basically means that I'll put day one up and we all start on the actual voyage as a
remember the 5th of November. Correct.
I thought, do you know what? If Guy Fawkes can do it, one rebel to another, that's when I'm launching. So
just don't blow anything up.
Well, I can't guarantee that.
Oh,
we've got lifeboats. We're good.
Oh, good. Okay, never mind. Sorry, sorry, I blew up.
Basically, yeah, and that's how it's going to be. So I'm really looking forward to it, because it's actually my first quest I've done. I'm usually a writer, but I am a writer anyway. But I thought, why not do that as well? That'd be wicked. And people will get to see me too. I've got a lot of comments from readers who say, I wish I could meet you or hear your accent, because I write very British as well, but actually very sarcastic, because, British humour is Monty Python sarcasm all the way. So that's what that is. I do have a warning in the front. There should be a big warning on the parental warning, whatever. But I have got a warning to say, hey, there are a few fucks in there, I've got to say, and definitely some twats and bollocks. So if you're not up to that, don't read the book.
And I comment on this throughout different podcasts, but there's some people that are abhorred by the word fuck.
They're disgusting.
Yeah, just disgusting. And I've got
one should be sent to elocution school right away for finishing, ladies. Yeah, don't read my book if you're that kind of dude. I don't think you'll like it.
Well, and that's what it comes down to. I mean, it's a part of the vernacular. It's part of the society nowadays. I mean, and what they've determined linguistically that what's a curse word now is just made up shit from years and years and years of trying to think what's proper and what's not.
Exactly. And the swear. There's something I say in that book about swearing, and I just I don't know if you're aware, you probably are, but of the origins of the word fuck.
It's to strike, right?
Well, actually, it's the English origin anyway, is from, what do you call it, Victorian London, where, prostitution was not allowed. It was illegal, still is, I think. Shit. Anyway, yeah. And sex outside marriage. And so basically there was a lot of arrests, women being arrested for prostitution or having sex if they weren't married. And they were in our arrest sheet, it was written, they were arrested. What's the crime? They're arrested for unlawful carnal knowledge. F-U-C-K. So in the end, because it was so long, they just used to be F.U.C.K. That's what they're arrested for. And eventually it became fuck was actually a swear word for sex or dirty sex outside marriage, prostitution, and then became bastardized and shameful. And then it became an offense because someone decided, because the actual origins was just a sentence to say what you bloody arrested for, hardly offensive. And what is offensive is a taboo around it. And what we've built up. And so because I'm a taboo breaker, I can't really shy away from saying words like that. I don't say them on purpose. I say them when as a linguist, I choose that's the most powerful word to use. Some people say people who swear is because they're so unsmart, they're so stupid, they don't have enough vocabulary. And I'm like, well, bollocks to you, mate. I speak 4 fluent languages. I have plenty of vocabulary. But if I want to use fuck or bollocks, it's because there's a reason behind it. I'm not going to let a taboo stop me.
You know, it'd be a cool podcast.
What's that?
You and me doing the origins of all sorts of curse words. We'll just go through.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I want to know where the word twat comes from because I love that word.
Yeah, we should do that.
Well, obviously twat is in there because it's part of the female. And I'm like, why is it always the female anatomy? You got the C word. People always say the C word. I can't even say the word. It's so rude.
I don't think twat's actually something that's just towards females. I know a lot of men that are twats.
Oh no, I know. I just mean the word twat means vagina.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Twat, pussy, fanny, cunt, vagina, all mean vagina. So right. Why do we have to use our precious hole as an insult? It's actually a bloody brilliant thing, right? It shouldn't be an insult. You should say, oh, you're such a twat. And you should go, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That's what I say. Oh, you're such a pussy. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so, yeah. And I know male have shaming too. We call people cocksuckers or dicks or pricks, and that's all the same. That's using the male organ, right, as an insult. Why? So that's why I think, swearing isn't swearing. It's just words that people choose to use. If people take offense to that, that's because they've got an issue they need to clear. And guess what? I can help them with that.
Well, exactly. We find so many things to be offended by now. I mean, it's almost like you're just looking for something to be pissed off about.
Oh, some people do. Drama queens. And also politically correctness. If you don't say, people don't, that's why people don't speak anymore. They're scared someone somewhere will take offense and sue them. It's like, well, for fuck's sake, really? Like You've got that much. People who take offense a lot are actually people who have low self-esteem. They could do with this course because they can't, it's ego issues, which is linked with low self-esteem. And it's like, guys, what kind of life could you have if you stopped looking at other people or try to shame and blame them and just do your own life? Like, how much more fun could that be?
My grandmother once, not once, but she told me several times that you can only be offended if you give somebody permission to offend you.
Good tip.
Realistically, it's your choice to be offended.
Oh, it absolutely is. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't feel that way sometimes, but that's because there's a lack of self-awareness with what's going on with your own belief system and body and stuff. But, body awareness, self-esteem awareness, it all helps to just have a more peaceful life.
I think a lot of times, like when somebody's saying something and I'm like, oh God, that pisses me off. I think the natural turn, if you're in a meeting or something like that, and it's like, oh, I'm really offended. No, you're just mad because they either struck a nerve with you, told you some truth you don't want to hear, or you think that maybe, whatever they said was socially unacceptable. And of course, you have to be above the fray.
Yeah, whatever. That's exactly right, though. And in the self-esteem course, there's actually a part where I say that. It's like, hey, you know what? If you do get offended or you react or something, yes, you might feel entitled, and sometimes, you've got the right to be because they're downright out of order. But if it gets to you, it's because they've pushed a button. And it's not about having a go at the button pusher. It's about looking inwards and where that button leads to. And you follow that button lead, like the detonator, and to the Acme bomb, and find where that is and detonate that bloody thing, because that will keep on playing. And people, if you've got buttons, guess what? People love button pushing. They'll go, oh, button, big red button. What's that? And they'll just keep poking you.
Absolutely.
Get rid of the bloody button and people won't offend you so much because they've got there's nothing there, right? But all of that is internal. It's internal, and you're quite right. So your grandmother was right. See what I mean? The older generations, they were a lot more savvy about the body and nature and things because they didn't have doctors and drugs, and they were a lot more clever for that reason, I think. Wouldn't it be great if you could get our great-great-grandparents back for a chat and ask them, what do you do if you've got a headache? What do you do if you've got... And they're just bump, 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 be great.
Yep.
Great, brilliant wisdom. But I'm trying to keep alive because it's like I said, I was lucky enough to have talked to my great-grandparents and my grandparents. But, and I talk about, well, what did my dad used to say this, and my great-granddad, so that would be my 3 or 4 generations back, and I'd write it down, or, and it's like, that's just such richness there that we're just losing because we're putting our faith into religions, our faith into doctors, into pharmaceuticals, into someone else to fix our problems, or into blaming the world for our problems, instead of going, hey, you know what? It's my body. It's my own ecosystem. It's my own choices. And why don't I fix myself? And for that, you need to go back to the older wisdom.
Personal responsibility for your own self.
Yes. Because responsibility, well, that means actually it's not like a bad word. It's to be able to respond. To be able to respond to your own needs. That's being responsible. It's not farming it out to someone else. So responsibility is a huge word, and I love that word. It's like, yes, if people say, oh, you're so responsible, I'm like, yes, I am. And so can you be.
Nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's totally right.
So, I feel like this podcast has been very educational on many different levels. And plus, you have a boisterous personality, so it's always fun to talk to you. I do think that once we get done with this, we need to talk about doing that cursing podcast, because that would be
hell yeah,
fucking hilarious.
I'm going to say the word bollocks like a lot on that one.
Bollocks.
We could make up our own as well, Jeff. Like we could come up at the end of the podcast with the most offensive word that no one's ever heard, because it'll be made up. And I'll tell you what, it will trend. It will trend.
Yeah, we'll actually start on Twitter and just feed it through all the different social media avenues. Then once it becomes something that's totally taboo, we'll write a book on it.
Joint book. Oh my God. Love it.
Love it.
Oh, the title could be the most offensive word ever.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to pick something benign, something that just means nothing, and just.
You mean like lure them in, lure them in,
lure them
in, and then hit them with it on the road to highway to
hell.
Or we're going to have some Wasp. One of my favorite bands is Wasp, American stars, right? And of course, they have some very supposedly offensive lyrics. They had those parental things slapped on and this and that. I love it. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be some Wasp lyrics somewhere in there.
Gotta be. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you've got your book, Piss to Bliss. Yes. You've got your new self-esteem course, which I assume they can get at your website, which is
www.drjmayer.com. And I will send you the link if you like. Yes, they can.
I actually have all of your links. I both socially and on the internet stalked you for a little bit. So I think I've got everything I need.
Oh my God. Cool.
Oh no.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yes, well. If you've got everything you need. But if you do, let me know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, people can actually go on the landing page, read up all about the voyage. And if they want to, they can get on board right away and be let in the course, so they can get on with it. And the book is available anyway on Amazon. So yeah.
Yep, both on the UK and the US.
Absolutely everywhere in the world. It's also under an ISBN number somewhere, so you can even get it at a library if you want to, or wherever. But Amazon is the quickest and easiest way. So Job done.
Oh, I can just see some American librarian go, oh my God, Piss the Bliss. What do I do with this book?
I know, it's great, isn't it? They can't pigeonhole it just because they can't pigeonhole me. People have tried, Jeff. They really have.
I'm sure they have.
Mhm.
I'm sure they have.
Oops, they didn't win. Oh, well. Who gives a fuck?
Is there anything else you want to mention or anything else that's going on that you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, we're heading back into isolation in the UK. So it's about, top tips. I've also got top tips on my YouTube channel. I'm going to have about how to just keep your pecker up, as they say. And because isolation can cause obviously self-esteem issues, and especially like on internet, because a lot of people, myself included, who perhaps weren't really internet savvy or did much before, and now on internet, great grandparents and parents are on Zoom. How do I do this thing? But then they do it properly, and they're like, look, people coming up with a lot more inventive ways because they have to do things like this because they can't meet in public, right? And so that's awesome. But the other side to that is that the trolls. And so the internet and social media or things like that can actually also sap your self-esteem, because you're exposing us, we're exposing ourselves, so to speak, to such a wide audience. And like we were saying before, some people, some drama queens, aka trolls, have got nothing better to do than to shame or slag off other people, which is such a shame, because they probably got such amazing things they could offer the world if they could just throw their ego aside and get on with it.
And that's the only thing they do is troll.
Yeah, right. And if you don't have very high self-esteem to start with, and you go out there and the troll gets you, it could finish you off, and that's another bug bite of mine. It's like, come on, let's not let that happen. And that's why I'm doing this course, because at first I was like, oh no, I couldn't possibly, do a video, what people would wear, what do my bum look big in this, and all that stuff's coming out. No, and I had to work on shutting up my voices and stuff. But it was great, because then I got tips on how to do that I could share with people. And I thought, what, bollocks, I'm doing it because I know it will help people. And for those it doesn't help, they won't matter. But for those who feel they can criticize, I'd be like, you know what, you get out and do a video course during lockdown and see how you get on. Then you can slag mine off.
And that's the one thing that usually shuts them down is, why don't you get off your ass? Why don't you go do something, and we'll see how good you do,
Exactly.
And things don't happen naturally right away. You need to practice. You're not good at something just automatically. These things all take practice and time to actually develop how you're going to do it. So why don't you shut the hell up and actually do something instead of just sitting there bitching about something somebody else did, and that's really a hard pill. Usually, like, I'm going to block you. You know what? Screw you. I never want to talk to you anyway. So
no, it's like that. But sometimes people act like that because they don't have enough self-esteem. And I'm like, okay, so sometimes they just need some help, but they're not always in a position to want to be helped. But at some point they might. But it's almost like just having that, again, and like a neutral space rather than dualistic. I talk a lot about that in the course. Dualistic, he's good, I'm bad, he's good, all that comparison stuff. And trolls actually just want a reaction because it makes them look good, or because they're being paid attention to, or whatever. And it's like, if we don't give them that attention, they'll go away. Or if we give them the attention that they need, then it might actually help them, and there'll be one less troll in the world, right? So that's also my thing. It's like, what, trolls, let's have a troll school, and let's see how many of you can just become really bloody brilliant human beings and help the world instead of trolling them. Because I'm sure in every troll, actually, I'm not sure, some of them are really like, where the fuck did you come from? But some of them, like, what? It's just they need a bit of help.
Well, but, and there's a difference between, somebody being a troll and somebody who wants to actually engage in an active debate.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Somebody that asks a question, even though it's a leading question, they actually want to get into a, some sort of a conversation, that's way different than somebody saying, oh, you suck,
Totally. And that's what I mean. Some people, it's like they'll react to my style, my book, whatever I say, because they've allowed me to push a button. Now, I'm a taboo breaker, which means I'm also a button pusher, and I don't hide from that, because actually I can't help people unless we know where their buttons are in the first place for us to help remove them, right?
Right.
That's why I say you have to be open to want to be coachable. because people can't help you if you don't want the help. But if you want the help and you're just lost and you're scared because you don't know what to do, that's great. You don't have to, that someone else can coach you with that. But so really, yeah, if someone's reacting because they're angry, it's like, well, you're not angry at me and what I say. Really, you're angry because you've got a button that's been pushed. And it's like, when have you been angry like this before? Forget the content, forget me. When has you felt exactly this way before? And you'll probably go back and back. Oh yeah, this time, that time. And when's the first time when you're a child? Usually buttons are put by the time we're 8 years old, we've got most of our buttons and they just evolve with us, right? So go back. When's the first time you really felt like this? Oh, it was when my mom said I wasn't good enough. And they're like, brilliant. Let's work on that. And then you get rid of the core and then all the other buttons disappear, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, thanks, that was really good. I'm like, you're welcome. Like, it wasn't me, I was just But if you get someone who goes, that's just a load of crap and I can do better and whatever, then yeah, they don't want to help. They're just being a pain in the ass because that's what they do, right?
Right.
Someone else can deal with them.
That makes their little their little low self-esteem egos just kind of, oh, look, I did something, today that got me a little bit of recognition, Yahoo, good for you.
Yeah, exactly. That's fine. I don't need the recognition that way. So people need it. Let them have it. It's fine. That's fine.
Well, that's the other thing when you're trying to help somebody and you get blasted for it from somebody on, you get, sideswiped by them. And it's like, shut up. You're not doing anything but being negative.
Yeah. And unfortunately, with lockdown situations, it's going to highlight two types of people. Those like me and you who think, fuck it, find another way. I've done online things. You've started a podcast. Like, there's other ways that we can help people and each other and to do all sorts of things, right? Or you get those who think, oh my God, it's not fair. The fucking world's dying and everyone's got it worse than me or better than me. And they will just literally either stall into depression or they will become a troll, because it's the easiest thing to do is to get angry, isn't it? I mean, the easiest thing to do is to blame everything and all your problems on someone else, because then you haven't got to deal with it. Because,
right.
The one thing about metaphysics help and what I help people with, and people will know if they're on this course, yes, it's fun. Yes, we have a laugh. But the big transformation comes looking within at the dark stuff. It comes in looking at what actually hurts, what makes you, why are you crying, right? And then sort of like mopping up your tears, go, stiff upper lip, old girl. I'll go, no, let the tears go. Come on. Where do they come from? Let's find the source of this. And that isn't easy to actually look around and face your fears. That's why my motto, by the way, which is in the book and it will be everywhere, is fortune favors the brave.
True.
And there's a big reason for that, which I won't go into in this podcast, maybe on another, why that is my big power sentence. But it's true. And if you want your fortune, you need to be brave. And the courage in this sense is looking at what did cause these pains and these buttons and these problems and these issues in the first place. Look at it head on until you're neutral, which is very hard to do. But it is doable, and there are ways of doing it quicker and easier. And if you've got someone to help you, and that just makes it, alone is very hard. But that's why I do what I do. And I love that, because seeing people at the end of it, even just 18 days together, I know if people do the work and let me help them, they're going to be standing taller without knowing it. They're going to be smiling more. They're going to dare to look at you in the eyes more. And they're just going to feel a bit better about themselves, even if they didn't realize they were feeling a bit shit in the first place.
That daily struggle that people have really should be your daily struggle with yourself and trying to get yourself neutral versus, struggling with everybody else in the world, because you can't control them. Number one. And if you do, you probably have a different type of psychosis that should be talked about on a different podcast. But, what you really need to do is control yourself and control your reactions, find those buttons, blow them up, and then just make yourself an all around better person. It will not only affect your attitude, but also affect your health.
And that's what it's all about, because if we don't have our health, we can't do much at all. I'm sure you've been there. When you're poorly, whatever illness it is, you can't sit and write a book. You can't sit and help someone else. You can't even sit up yourself. And it's like, what kind of life is that? And people go through it with chronic health because the doctor just said, live with it. And so they just think, I've just got to live with it. No. There is no issue I can think of where you need to live with it if you know metaphysics and the old ways.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So what I'm going to suggest is if you're out there, you're feeling depressed and you've got some issues that you've been shut down on from a medical doctor, or you can't find the right pills to take or whatever, what you should do is you should go to drjmeyer.com and give Jennifer a try. Look for alternatives, find things that that maybe not in the mainstream that may help you out more than any medical doctor ever could have. I'm not saying that, if I have cancer, I should go to doctor, do whatever. What I'm saying is that, there's lots of things that you can help people with.
Exactly. And also, medical doctors have their place in our A team, as I call the A team. It's just they're not the only place.
Right. And I think that's an important message. I want to tell you, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've gotten to know you a little bit over Facebook and some other social mediums, but I tell you what, I'm really impressed with you, Doc.
Well, thanks, Doc.
You betcha. Or should I call you Captain? My captain.
Well, at the moment, it's Pirate Queen Captain, of course. But I'm always Doctor Who.
Dr. Captain.
Metaphysics, right? Dr. Captain. Yeah. Whatever floats your boat.
Whatever floats your boat. Well, Captain, it's been nice setting this on sale for you real quick. I just want to tell everybody, thank you very much for listening to the DIY podcast or DIY writer podcast. I screw that up every other podcast, but it doesn't really matter. I don't care. Anyway, what I really appreciate you doing is if you're listening to this on one of the podcasts, please follow me or subscribe if you're on YouTube. Other than that, Dr. Jennifer Meyer, I appreciate everything you've done for me, and we're going to have to do some more podcasts.
I will certainly look forward to that. But thanks for having me, because I've had such a ball. I really love it. I'm a big fan, Jeff. So this is huge for me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. All right. With that, we're going to say goodbye, and I want you all to have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.